Part of my troubles, not all of them, but part of my troubles began when I was looking for permanent employment. And there was a job offer down in Charlottesville. I was living in Stafford, Virginia, up here near Quantico, and was working some temp agency stuff. And there was a job offer down in Charlottesville, Virginia, for network operations guy. So it'd be essentially server management, and that's why I took the job. And there was also an offer for $3,500 to get training. So I wanted to get either a CCNA or MCSA certification through that. I've done quite a bit of studying, and having a business degree and a couple years of electrical engineering. With the electrical engineering, I've already done all the hex and the binary and all that kind of mathematics. So, but anyway, so while I was working for a very good company, whose name I'll leave out of this, over in the Herndon area, but there was no chance to go permanent with those guys. I drove down to Charlottesville in the afternoon one day for an interview with a guy named David Darcy, who was at the time the president of Precision IT. So Precision IT manages servers for law firms up in New York City, and mostly they got some other stuff. But we agreed, with $3,500, and so with the benefits and everything like that. And I said I'd come on board. So I moved down to Charlottesville at my own expense. I got down there, and they were using a tool called Autotask, which is probably the dumbest tool ever created, in my opinion, for IT. I just don't know why they bother. I see what the intention is, but it's just stupid, just plain stupid, for so many reasons. And so anyway, when I got there, they had plasma displays up on the wall, and what they do is they were managing servers they had put widgets on the server so that they could receive alerts to various different issues, and they set parameter ranges. And they were having great trouble, partly because of the software and partly because of the stupidity of Brian McMillan on setting the ranges and getting things right. So up on the board, when I got in there, they had some alerts that were 3 months old. And I began to ask questions to Brian McMillan and say, what's this? And his answers all the time: I forgot, I don't know, I don't remember, or I'll get to it later. Every time. I think between him and Tanika Harris, they're the two most incompetent people I've ever met in my life in terms of workplace. It's just stunning. So we go along, and it's constantly questions that I'm accumulating on the side here. This was around November, 2011, just around Thanksgiving. So then December comes on, and the company wants to have a dinner. So they go down to the old town section of UVA, of Charlottesville, where that brick street is. It's closed off and everything. And if you are near the French restaurant, in that little nook there, and you go down the street, and on the right there's an old restaurant there that serves steaks and other things. So if you were at the drugstore on the left-hand side up here, it would be diagonal and on down. So we go in there, and there's round tables in there, and so all the techs are sitting at one table, and I sit over at the president's table with the other folks. And the president's wife were there, and other folks, and then his partner, VP out of New York, comes down. Mark Pantoni comes down. And so we're all sitting there together having a dinner. And Darcy starts talking about his past, and he explains how it was that I'm not proud of what I did in the past, kind of contriteness, but it was ridiculous because he said, he's telling the whole table that when he worked for a national food chain, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but when he was a bartender, he would sell a beer to someone, for example, and then serve it and receive, say, $2, or whatever the number was at the time. Then he would take, he wouldn't ring it up, but instead he would just do like a no sale kind of a thing and take two pennies out of the cash register and put in his pocket as markers, and then put the $2 in the till. And so then when he finished at the end of his shift, he would take out all the pennies. And so if he had, let's say, 18 or 20 pennies, he would pour those pennies back in, which had no value. They weren't money, they were just markers. And then the money that had gone in there, which had not been rung up, he would take that $20 out and put it in his pocket and take it home, in addition to the tips, in addition to what he was being paid. He was ripping off his employer. And he was trying to say he was sorry he did that. And this is the president of the company. This is 1 month after I've been hired, maybe less than a month. Then he goes on to tell a story about how he got tired of paying the high prices for Christmas trees and was driving home when he was at Christmas one year, and he noticed that his neighbor's land, because there's lots of, a lot of properties have large acreage in that area. He noticed on his neighbor's land there was a nice tree over there, and so in the dead of the night he goes over and gets a saw and cuts down a tree in his neighbor's yard and uses that for his Christmas tree. I mean, we're talking about a managed services company that is managing servers for law firms in New York City. So, Brian McMillan could not do anything right. He could not explain how to do things. We were working 3 12s on, 3 12s off. So 3 12-hour shifts, 3 days in a row, and then three days off. So he said he wanted to get some sort of training up when he went on vacation. I said, well, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll work a couple of your days of your shift so you can take the time to do the training. Instead, he goes up to Massachusetts or Maine or somewhere, and he's out traipsing around in the woods. Doesn't bother. No certification. This guy had been working there for 2 years. No certifications. None. Didn't bother to take the money or anything like that. So then one of the tech lead was up in New York, and one person referred to him. Brian told me that someone said to him one time that he needed to go, when that other person left the company, that Will needed to go to some anger management classes. So eventually Will was replaced by Brian. But slightly before that, somewhere around January, we go up to Terramark in Culpeper, and we're supposed to be putting a server in a rack. There's two racks up there, and so Brian puts the server in and is fooling around with the network cables and stuff. No network map, no nothing. It's just plugging in places all over the switch and stuff like that. Can't get it set up. So we drove 40 miles up there for nothing out of Charlottesville, went back. Next day he drives back up there, moves it to the next rack and plugs it in and spikes the APC switch, which is about 30 amps. It'll operate around 22 amps with all the equipment in there. He spiked it 30 amps. Email comes in all the way to the president. I saw the email myself. So it's like, you're so stupid you don't even know how to carefully watch. I mean, there are LED numbers on the side that tell you what the amperage is that moment on those controlled intelligent switches. Excuse me, power strips. So again, it's all the time, ask Brian a question, he doesn't know the answer. So one day he decides he's going to, there's a server inside the office in Charlottesville, the NOC, and it contains the financial information for the entire company. Using QuickBooks Enterprise. So he decides he wants to rev VMware on the system from 4 to 4.1 for whatever reason. And he takes down everything because it's a night shift. And so 7 o'clock in the morning, here come the accountants, and they're like, hey, where's my stuff? I got to get working. So from 7 until 9 a.m., he couldn't bring it back up. I had to go home. I just had to get out of there. I come back in the next day. I said, what happened here? He'd been working there 2 years. He said, hey, I'm an F-tard. I'm truncating the word for editing here. I forgot to start the SQL database with QuickBooks Enterprise. This is not the first time you've taken this down and brought it back up. 2 years of this, and you forgot, and you brought down the accounting server for the entire company. So then, in classic form these days, he gets promoted. Will gets put aside, and he's now promoted. And he comes in and makes all kinds of stupid accusations on tickets, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. So finally one day I said, you have got to just get your act together. You've got to stop making mistakes, and just tell me what it is here. I've got 100 questions. In fact, I said one night prior to that, somewhere in, I think it was mid-January, I said, let's see now. Yeah. I got 100 questions here. He said, he smart enough to say, give me a top 5. I copy-paste them. He prints them off, walked across. I can see it in my mind. I remember him walking across the room, and he comes back. And he can't answer any of the 5 out of 100 questions. He can't answer them. Same excuses. I don't know. I forgot. I haven't had time to do this. I don't remember. Constantly. Well, according to LinkedIn, he's still there. When I complained about his screwing up, he came in and fired me because I complained about his incompetence. And I should mention too that at one point in January, he had the audacity to tell me that I was going to be doing help desk for the next 2 years. And I was like, no, I'm not. I have $3,500 as a stipend somewhere for me to go get certified. I'm doing server management right now. That's why I moved down here. He thought he could change the terms of my contract, that crook. So the day I got fired, magically David Darcy was hiding under his sofa at home because he didn't come to work. He's a coward. Well, David Darcy, according to LinkedIn and according to the website of Precision IT, David Darcy was moved for whatever reason from president of the company to CFO. And according to his LinkedIn profile, it doesn't look like he works there anymore. So here's a person who lured me in to a skunk hole in Charlottesville, and I get fired after 3 months and ended up almost in the street because of that. And that was the beginning. That is the beginning right here of my credit record going to the tank. And it's the beginning of Citibank, Sears card calling me. It's the beginning of Wells Fargo, or Wachovia at the time, calling me and harassing me. All because of this, all because of an F-tard in Precision IT. And they've never made amends for this, never apologized, never compensated me for this. This is how people do stuff. They can go in there and screw up everything in the world and treat customers like a dog, but they never take responsibility for their acts. And you can have a person who brags at the Christmas dinner about being a thief and is the president of the company sitting right there. So now, to the best of my knowledge, Mark Pantoni's running the show over there. But he's never contacted me to make amends about this mess. Not once. Nobody has. And why Brian McMillan is still at the knock is beyond me. I would not hire him to serve hamburgers at a restaurant. I mean, this guy is just unbelievable. It's just who can put up with that kind of crap? So this is just not settled until Precision IT contacts me and Mark Pantoni makes good on what they did to my record, to my credit record, and for breach of contract. I mean, you hired me to be a NOC manager and to train me, and you didn't. You're liars. It's just a fraud. And in fact, even the unemployment people told me, said, "Oh yeah, employers do this crap all the time." The Virginia Employment Commission's people in the office in Charlottesville, right there on 29, near the movie theater, they told me, said, "Yeah, this is what people do. They lure you in with these phony benefits, but they don't. It's all a lie. It goes on all the time." They told me. So there you go. So until you make this right, I'm going to keep on making videos and I'm going to keep on broadcasting this.